All right. Happy Tuesday, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Sabs podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. If you're new, I want to let you know that Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursdays for the Sabby and JB show, and you can catch me here on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and every other Sunday. I want to give a shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, Twitter, and Rumble. And welcome back, guys. We're going to kick things off with our special guest. There are a number of you that have been asking me to cover this story, and I have someone very knowledgeable about Burkina Faso to come on and discuss what is happening there. Really quick, I do want to show you the thumbnail so you know what we're going to discuss tonight. Going to be a pretty interesting show. Tonight, we are discussing Kamala Harris and AOC are busted. Oh my God. This story has a lot of people talking, ladies and gentlemen. Wait till we get into that. We're also going to discuss Donald Trump approval new lows. We told you that his approval rating had decreased. There's more information that has been released. What does this have to do with his Columbus Day announcement? What does it have to do with him removing artifacts from the National African American Museum of History in DC? I'm going to explain to you the connection tonight. We'll get into that. We're also going to discuss Burkina Faso pushes back. You'll notice there's a picture of Emmanuel Macron also there next to Ibrahim. Very, very big story that, again, a lot of you wanted me to discuss. We're also talking about Ben Gvir protest. Oh my God, one of the most disgusting things that I have seen this week has been what has happened because of Ben Gvir's visits. We're going to dive into that. And last but not least, this is a big story that I think you need to prepare for. The 18-year-old decline. What is happening to 18-year-olds in the United States, and how will that affect or impact the economy? Those are the stories tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Let's go ahead and bring in our special guest. He is a journalist. He also writes with Black Agenda Report. His name is Abayami Azikiwe. He has been here before. Welcome back. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for the invitation again.
So a lot of people, I cannot tell you how many, have reached out to me and have asked me, can you please cover what's happening with Burkina Faso? And from what I've seen so far, it appears that Ibrahim Traore, there is a lot of pushback against him and apparently some calls on his life. Can we start with Ibrahim first, and then we can get into some of the more complexities and talk about what Macron has to do with this as well?
Ibrahim Traore is a phenomenal leader in Africa as well as internationally. He's the second youngest head of state in the world, only next to the Prime Minister of Iceland. He served in the military for many years. Prior to that, he was a part of the National Marxist Student Association in Burkina Faso. In 2022, there were two military coups inside the country. The first one he supported, and of course that did not go far enough. And then of course later in 2022, he was selected to head an interim government. He is currently the interim head of state of Burkina Faso, and they are aligned with two other landlocked states in the Sahel region of West Africa. That is the Republic of Mali and also the Republic of Niger. They have formed the Alliance of Sahel States, and they've also signed the Leptako-Gourma Agreement, which is the border points of unity between geographically between the three countries, the landlocked countries in West Africa. So that gives you a brief overview of what's going on. These are former French colonies. They have asked the French to leave their country in terms of military support and also economic involvement as well. Burkina Faso produces a considerable amount of gold as well as other strategic resources. So it is a country that has enormous wealth. However, at the same time, in contradictory fashion, they're one of the poorest countries in Africa and indeed internationally.
Because France exploits a lot of their resources, correct?
France, The gold mining industry has been under attack, not only in Burkina Faso, but also in Mali. And that is controlled by companies based in the UK, Australia, as well as Canada. So entities which have been extracting gold and other important resources out of the country, and they have not been given back the proper compensation for these resources. So nationalization of the gold industry has been announced in Burkina Faso just recently. So we're going to see more and more of this throughout the entire AES states.
And does the United States, well, let's just say the West in particular, they tend to be pretty hostile towards, I would say, African leaders that decide to operate on their own. So for Ibrahim to ask France military to leave his country, which I think is appropriate. I think it's appropriate. But that sends a red flag to the West.
Most definitely. And security is a major concern in Burkina Faso right now. There was just an attempted coup last week. It was announced on the national television network. The security minister made an extended report about efforts that were international, that were designed to overthrow the government that exists now, that's headed by Ibrahim Traore. Also, the head of the United States Africa Command, General Langley, attacked Ibrahim Traore in a congressional hearing, saying that he's utilizing the country's gold resources to enrich himself and to commit fraud, but there's no evidence whatsoever that this is going on. But the fact that AFRICOM today has become a source of criticism, for example, in Niger, they were asked to leave. They had a drone station there, and it was dismantled because of the CNSP government, which is allied with Burkina Faso as well as Mali. So yes, they are quite concerned that this whole movement against France, against the United States, nationalization of resources will spread to other parts of Africa, and it will create a serious problem for the U.S., France, and the other imperialist states.
Let's bring in Emmanuel Macron here, because he has some nerve, I would say. This tweet here, Emmanuel Macron, we need to strengthen our friendship with Captain Ibrahim Traore, president of Burkina Faso, as we convince him to allow our military bases in his country. And I thought this was interesting. Ibrahim's response is, but you're already friends with the US, Britain, Brazil, Canada. Do you have any military bases in those countries? So very, very well said there. Great response. But it's very clear what Macron is trying to do here. And Ibrahim steps up, and I would say is resisting, and is saying, no, you cannot do that. It's our country. It doesn't belong to you. We do not want you here. And my question to you is this: how long before the US government or the West in general tries to do what they did to Gaddafi to Ibrahim?
It's already underway. There have been several attempted coups. The fact that Langley mentioned Burkina Faso in this congressional hearing is a clear red flag. I should say white flag in terms of the white-dominated imperialist states that are trying to control Africa, even up to this day. This is clearly a warning to the government of Burkina Faso, to the anti-imperialist movement worldwide, to the Pan-African movement on the continent and internationally, that this country is in the crosshairs of imperialism. They're attempting to do everything they can to undermine and destabilize and even overthrow the government in Burkina Faso, in Niger, as well as Mali. So people should be on the alert, and they should try to contradict and combat any hostile propaganda against the Alliance of Sahel states.
And this is what I've explained to my audience time and time again, is that the United States government has a history of destabilizing countries, ruining them, stealing their resources. And the moment that they don't want to play ball, they find a way to dispose of the current leader and install the leader that they want.
Yes. And right next door in 1966, the Republic of Ghana, the first republic headed by Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, was overthrown by the Central Intelligence Agency cooperating with other imperialist states. Later, in 1987, Captain Thomas Sankara, right there in Burkina Faso. In fact, under his leadership, the name of the country was changed from Upper Volta to Burkina Faso, which means land of the upright people. So this has been done before, and they're going to continue in their attempts to destabilize Africa and at the same time control the resources that are there, because Africa is extremely rich in regard to critical minerals, metals, and other resources that are indispensable to the world capitalist system.
I think that's the thing a lot of people may not be aware of. They think that countries in Africa are just poor. They think all the countries in Africa are what they see on those late night infomercials that says just $1 a month and you can help a kid in Africa. You remember, those late night like infomercials that I used to see like growing up.
Yeah, and they do the same thing for animals. So it's the same type of mentality. You don't know where the money is going, what country it's going to. So it's really a tragedy. It's just a further level of exploitation. Africa is poor and underdeveloped because it has been systematically oppressed and exploited for centuries, going back to the Atlantic slave trade. We could talk about classic colonialism and neo-colonialism since the 1950s and 1960s. And it's still being destabilized. Look at what's going on in the Democratic Republic of Congo, what's happening in the Republic of Sudan, in Somalia, and many other states. There's still contested zones as it relates to the dominance of imperialism. They do not want African states to form alliances with the People's Republic of China, with the Russian Federation, with the Islamic Republic of Iran, or any entity that's anti-imperialist that's operating inside the continent as well as internationally.
It's like you work with the West or you don't work at all.
Exactly.
It's so disgusting. I want to show you this as well. This was Ibrahim responding to a pretty nasty statement that Emmanuel Macron made. President Macron insulted Africa, but President Ibrahim Traore came through. Everyone listen to this. Very interesting.
He also insulted all Africans.
I think they forgot to say thank you to us. It's not a big deal. It will come with time.
There is a part that caught my attention where he talked about ingratitude.
Gratitude, I am well aware, is a non-transmissible disease to humans.
He is human. Our ingratitude is not transmissible to him. This is how this gentleman sees Africa, sees Africans. We are not human in his eyes. I think that if he is not an atheist and he prays, every morning when he wakes up and prays, he should also pray to the Africans. Because it is thanks to our ancestors that there is a France today. He should pray to us.
The nerve of Macron to make that it's disgusting.
It is. And yeah, he's correct that the wealth of the Western European countries and North America is based upon the exploitation of African labor and resources. And that's clearly laid out in Eric Williams' book from way back in 1944, Capitalism and Slavery. He outlines it. All these major industries that became part of the world imperialist system, whether it's banking, shipping, commerce, mass production, steam technology, all have their origins in regard to the exploitation of African labor and resources. So he is correct. They should be thanking us, and they should be paying reparations to African people in Africa and all over the world.
Very well said there. And I want to bring this up because you mentioned banking. From what I understand, Burkina Faso has a public bank.
Yes. And that's part of the process of transitioning, from French dominance. They've also set up a national gold mining corporation as well to try to take control of the mining and the distribution of the resources that are being taken out of the country, and to get adequate remunerations from the profits that are being generated in Burkina Faso. And we've seen a similar situation as well in Niger, as well as Mali.
This is something we've been talking about on the show before about public banking. In the U.S., we have the Bank of North Dakota in North Dakota, which is a public bank, but we've been trying to push this for quite some time. Like, imagine if every state had their own public bank. And for people who don't understand the big difference, North Dakota was able to withstand some of the economic despair during the 2008 housing crisis because they had that public bank. So they didn't have the same type of struggles that other states had in particular. It is really important for, I think, like you were saying, like Burkina Faso to have its own, businesses, banks, et cetera. And it's like, every time I see these countries like proceed to do something like that, here comes the West to say, let us come in and help you and show you how it's done. And then the country is never the same after that.
That's correct. That is absolutely correct. And this is happening on an international level. The Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa Plus Summit, they have established a new development bank that's headed by the former president of the Republic of Brazil, Dilma Rousseff, and they're trying to counter the type of conditionalities that the International Monetary Fund and the World Bank have placed on Africa and other developing countries. This is the key struggle that's taking place right now on an international level. This is why Donald Trump, the current head of state in the United States, is imposing draconian sanctions in the form of tariffs against just about every country in the world. And we see the impact that's having on the domestic economy as well as the international economy. So this is the 100th day of his tenure in office. And what we've seen is uncertainty, and we've seen drastic decline in even the financial markets, and not to mention the other cuts that he's made domestically as well as internationally. So his program is going to be an absolute failure, because you cannot, as the United States, even though they're the leading capitalist country in the world, they have the largest economy in the world, followed directly by the People's Republic of China. He doesn't understand that you cannot live in the world today economically as a nation state on your own. Even car production, for example, within those cars, within those vehicles, you have parts that are made in different parts of the world. So if you're going to place tariffs on all these imports, it's going to do nothing except cause inflation and stagnation in the economy. And we already see that happening right now.
Exactly. And a number of people are upset about what's happening with the economy, at least according to the polls. It is that is coming to light, more people being more vocal about that in particular. If we were to think about, a multipolar world, and to me, it would make sense that countries in Africa would say, you know what, I think we might consider aligning with BRICS. To me, that makes sense, because the West, from what I've seen, obviously has not been a friend to those countries, even when they said that they would. The moment that they decide to go down a different path, that's it. Your leader is done. We're installing a Western, puppet. You can just look to Haiti and see different examples of that, and how the U.S. policies and, I would say, intervention in Haiti has destroyed that country. That goes all the way back to Woodrow Wilson. That didn't start. A lot of people say Bill Clinton. It didn't start with Bill Clinton. It goes all the way back. A lot of it comes from what I refer to as the Wolfowitz Doctrine, which basically says that no other country can be more powerful than the United States.
Yeah, the neoconservative view of the world, which has been adopted as well by Democrats. They have that same outlook internationally. After the collapse of the Soviet Union and the Comecon countries during the late 1980s and early 1990s, that was a dominant view. The whole notion of the end of history, that there will be no more class struggle in the world. This is, absolutely fanciful, people who are articulating these positions. So today, the Trump administration, with his Make America Great Again, domestic as well as foreign policy, will soon find out that U.S. capitalism cannot survive, it cannot thrive in total competition and hostility towards other states and other capitalist entities. For example, Canada, right here on the border with Michigan, and they're the largest trading partner with the United States. Yet he has increased levels of hostility towards Canada that are unprecedented. So it makes no sense what he's doing, but I think it's going to create a whole lot of havoc here in the United States.
What do you think? We want to talk about the infrastructure a little bit too, because I saw this as well when it comes to the roads. We're going to bring this up on the screen here really quick here. Also with Burkina Faso, Captain Ibrahim refused to hire foreign companies, to construct roads. Rather, he purchased all the equipment and used Burkinabe engineers. He trained the Burkinabe on how to operate the machines and gave them the opportunity to build their own country. He is attempting to be constructing 5,000 km of paved roads annually. No foreign funding, just the government of Burkina Faso. And this is what the West does not want.
Exactly. And that is why they have to get proper compensation for their metals and minerals in order to, rechannel those funds back into the national treasury in order to develop the country's infrastructure, roads, schools, healthcare facilities. All of this has to be done in order to build a modern and highly developed state. And that's what's great about what's going on with the Alliance of Sahel States, is that they're coming together, not for the benefit of a few individuals, but for the benefit of their countries, their people. And we're encouraging other countries in the region to join them and build bigger, more united economic and political blocs across the continent. This is the only way imperialism is going to be defeated. It's like what Nkrumah talked about back in the 1950s and 60s and 70s. Africa must unite. And those ideas are still very, very strong today. They have resonance today. And despite all the setbacks, despite all the efforts to hold Africa back, these ideas continue to resurface. And this is very, very important.
I think it's interesting, too, that France, if you look at a country like France and you compare it to the United States, people in France have benefits that we don't have here in the U.S. And it's just plain, it's almost like you just want to grab Macron and say, how greedy can you be? Because at the end of the day, like, think about it for a second. Everyone in France has healthcare. Everyone in the U.S. doesn't have healthcare. Right. I mean, from what I understand, they actually get paid maternity leave, like real paid maternity leave. They have real food at their school. Like, when their school lunch looks like it's real food. It's not like the processed crap that we have here in the schools. Remember how the French rose up and protested against Macron when he wanted to increase the retirement age? They were like, oh, hell no. They were like, what are you doing? So it's just like, how greedy can you be? And you would have thought that by now, France wouldn't have to depend on minerals from Burkina Faso, that by now the country would be developed enough that they would be able to take care of their own people without having to rob another country.
Yeah, you would think, but at the same time, their whole wealth, national wealth, is based on the robbing of other states. And they had one of the worst slave systems in the world in San Domingo, which was later known as Haiti. And that's why you had a revolution that began in 1791 and continued for 13 years, led to the establishment of a Black Republic in 1804. But as you mentioned before, the U.S. immediately imposed an embargo on Haiti. And that lasted all the way up to 1862. The time of the Civil War. And the only reason they lifted the embargo during that time period is because they were recruiting our ancestors here in the U.S. to fight in the Civil War to maintain a unified U.S. state. So all these things are very, very important. And France, we have to remember, they still have colonies around the world. In the Caribbean, they have colonies. They also have colonies in the Indian Ocean, like Mayotte, for example. They also have colonies like Martinique in the Caribbean, and they've had rebellions that have taken place there. in the South Pacific as well. There have been rebellions that have taken place in French colonies, which are still there. So they have colonialism as well as neo-colonialism in those within the French sphere of influence. So they're always attempting to dominate their former colonies and also make inroads to other former British colonies as well.
Do you think that Ibrahim's actions can inspire other African leaders to say, that's it, we want out from the West? I think there may have been some fear of that after Gaddafi, after what happened to him. But do you think he could inspire other African leaders to say, you know what, actually, we really don't want to work with the United States. Actually, we don't really want to work with France. We don't want to work with Britain. How about you guys just go?
Exactly. And that's what's happening. There's been announcements, for example, in Senegal, which is in the same region, that they want the French military forces to leave. Also in Chad, which was also a very close ally of Paris in Africa. So it's happening already. This is why they're moving as fast as they can to destabilize Burkina Faso and other countries that are part of the Alliance of Sahel states, so this example can be crushed. They did the same thing against Captain Thomas Sankara during the 1980s. He was calling for the refusal of African states to pay these usurious interest-related loans to the IMF and the World Bank. And for that, he was assassinated. And of course, his legacy still remains. But France was definitely behind his overthrow in 1987. But eventually, the people were able to rise up, throw out the people who had staged the coup during the late 1980s. And the country has undergone a series of crises just over the last 3 years. So for the people in Burkina Faso, the main issue right now is a question of national security. That is what's important. And what happened last week is clearly an example of the fact that they have to be concerned about their own internal security against the imperialist interests that are attempting to overthrow them.
Do you think that, so are there people on the inside that maybe imperialists may have gotten to? Do you feel there may be some infiltration?
Of course. They utilize money. They utilize promises of being allied with France and the United States. This is what was reported last week over Burkinabe television. Yes, they will use people internally as well as externally to bring about destabilization, overthrow of the government, and a return to the Western sphere of influence.
Why? Considering everything, the people there can look around and see what's happening, right?
Yes.
Why would someone say, I'm going to turn against the people of Burkina Faso and I'm going to align with the enemy, the person who's trying to control us and steal our resources?
It's unfortunate, but that mentality is out there. It's everywhere. You have internal struggles that take place. There's opportunism. There are promises of great wealth. So all of these things come into play when we look at efforts to destabilize countries in Africa. And this has happened repeatedly, going back to the 1950s, the 1960s. But what's interesting about Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger is that prior to 2020, these countries were heavily dependent upon the U.S. Africa Command as well as the French Foreign Legions, under the guise that they were providing weapons and training to combat these jihadi groups, these groups that are aligned with Al-Qaeda as well as the Islamic State. So that was the ruse they were using to train these soldiers, to provide them with arms, and also to engage in joint military maneuvers, which took place on an annual basis. But what the reality is that many people believe the U.S. is actually supporting these jihadist groups. We know, if we look at history, that Al-Qaeda came out of the struggle in Afghanistan against the socialist-oriented government there during the late 1970s and early 1980s. We know that Al-Qaeda was funded and organized by the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency. The same situation involving the Islamic State of Iraq and Syria, the Islamic State of the Levant, Iraq and the Levant, that came out as a result of the U.S. imperialist attempt to consolidate their control over Iraq and also to destabilize and overthrow the government of Syria. So these entities, these so-called jihadist groups, all of their activities are geared towards the murder, the destabilization, and the overthrow of governments which are oriented towards the people. They never have thrown a rock, fired a shot, or anything towards the state of Israel. Never. They never attack the United States. The only people they attack are their own people and people who are enemies of the United States. So this is what people have to keep in mind, that these so-called jihadist groups that are operating in West Africa in the Sahel region, it is suspected that these groups are actually funded by France as well as the United States. We saw what happened in Mali late last year. Ukraine, for example, has supplied weapons to one of the jihadist groups in Mali. This was uncovered, and it caused a rift, a diplomatic row between Mali and the other AES states against Ukraine. So this is clear evidence that U.S. imperialism is behind the destabilization of these groups. And why? Because they're moving closer to the Russian Federation. That is the main reason. So they want to have them out of the way. And Ukraine is a great conduit for funneling funds from the U.S. into Ukraine in order to destabilize these countries. So this is what's going on right now in the Sahel region.
So I sincerely hope everyone heard that. The weapons that have been coming from the United States going to Ukraine, Ukraine has been taking some of those weapons and giving them to countries in Africa.
Insurgents in Africa who are fighting against governments that are in power in order to destabilize them and to keep the chaos and the confusion going and to bring about a halt to any type of development efforts. For example, the roads that are being paved, bringing back engineers and technocrats from who have been living abroad, bringing them back and put them to work to develop Burkina Faso and other countries in the region. So yes, the U.S. is definitely involved in destabilizing all of these countries throughout West Africa and other parts of Africa as well.
These are the kind of things that people need to hear. And I want to sound the alarm about this as well. You mentioned Israel. There was a speech that Netanyahu gave, and he said, Africa, we want to come and liberate you too. And I would sound the alarm that anytime you hear another country use that term, liberate, like they're not like people can liberate themselves, right? Like they don't need Israel to come there. That means they want to come there and they want to colonize. They want to come there and they want to take over. It doesn't mean liberate you as though you'll be free. It means they want to come in and they want to occupy, just like they have people in Gaza.
Yeah, and they've done that before. The Suez Canal in 1967, a large part of the Sinai in Egypt in 1967 was taken over by the state of Israel. In 1956, there was a war waged by Britain, France, and the state of Israel against the Egyptian government of President Kamala Abdel Nasser, who nationalized the Suez Canal, which was his right, if it's on Egyptian territory. So these are some of the developments throughout history that indicate clearly that Israel also has designs on several regions of the African continent. If you look at, for example, Yemen in West Asia, it's just right across from the Red Sea from several African states. So the interests of the people of West Asia, for example, Palestine, Yemen, Syria, Iraq, Iran, Oman, etc., are clearly related to the interests of the people of North Africa and the Horn of Africa as well. So the notion that these entities are separate, that developments, for example, in North Africa or East Africa, the Horn of Africa, have nothing to do with West Asia is a fallacy. They have everything to do with them because the U.S. is very concerned about what the Ansarullah is doing in Yemen in terms of imposing a blockade against the Israeli defense forces and its overall Israeli economy. And this is very important. That's why they're being bombed almost every week now by the Trump administration, because they are fighting against U.S. interests in West Asia.
It's so important that when these countries, when they come in, like, they also try to, I would say in so many ways, they try to change the culture sometimes, like of the people.
They do.
Imagine, and you think about this with the dialect as well, right? Like, imagine how Africans in South Africa would speak had it not been for the colonization.
Yes, exactly. And that's another area too that's been targeted for destabilization. We saw the expulsion of the South African ambassador from the United States, the lies that are being perpetuated by Elon Musk and Donald Trump in regard to what's going on in South Africa, saying that the Boers, the so-called Afrikaners, are being exploited, that their land is being expropriated, and that they are undergoing genocide. This is absolutely false, absolutely false. And they're doing this in an effort to rally the whites in South Africa against the government, the national unity government led by the African National Congress. So all over Africa, they're doing what they can to destabilize many of the nation states. Even though Trump pretends like he's never heard of Lesotho, he's never heard of the Democratic Republic of Congo, and so on and so forth, but he has emissaries that are assigned to destabilize these countries, just like in the DRC right now. Marco Rubio just had a meeting with the foreign ministers of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo under the guise that they want to see a peace agreement between the two countries. In exchange for that, the U.S. will supply military forces in the eastern DRC, where you have important critical minerals and metals such as cobalt and many others that are important to the world capitalist system. So the governments there should not, the government of President Felix Tshisekedi and President Paul Kagame, they should realize the history of the United States in relationship to Congo and in other parts of Africa, that if they do send military forces there, it will not be in the interest of the African people. It will only be in the interest of the transnational corporations, which have already, for many, many years, well over a century, they've been exploiting the resources of Congo, going all the way back to the 1870s.
Correct. And Israel too. Israel was also involved in the, for people who are not aware, there's mining in the Congo. I would say the main item there is cobalt. So cobalt is used to make the rechargeable batteries that all of us use in some way, shape, form, or another. And Israel was also a part of that worker exploitation. I've seen videos of kids in the Congo, like just working like all these hours to mine this cobalt.
And they can't do that in the U.S. They do have child labor laws in the United States. They have them in Western European countries as well. So they're doing things that they would never do in their own countries, or the countries that they control outright. And that's what's so outrageous about this whole situation. So the Trump administration, even though it lies and says it knows nothing about the Democratic Republic of Congo, it knows nothing about the Kingdom of Lesotho, where Mr. Elon Musk was attempting to get a contract for his internet service, Starlink, there, but they claim they don't know anything about it. It's just so outrageous, the lies that are being told to the people in the United States and internationally on a daily basis. So in the DRC, fighting is going on. There are Rwandan-backed rebels in both North and South Kivu. And right now, the government of President Felix Tshisekedi is trying to negotiate some type of settlement with them. But if they do, they should keep the United States out of that settlement, because it won't be of any benefit to the people of the DRC or to the people of Rwanda.
That's right. And you mentioned Rwanda. I want to remind everybody there was a genocide in Rwanda. And at the time, President Bill Clinton said he said there is no genocide, then later had to come back and apologize and say, correction, there actually there was a genocide happening in Rwanda. I mean, I just say that because I just want to remind people, when you hear politicians say there's no genocide in Gaza, Israel's not killing Palestinian civilians, etc. We all know this is false, but I just want to remind you that this has happened before, where presidents of the United States said, no, there's no genocide happening, etc. And then later on, people find out the truth. Now, unfortunately, back then there was no social media, so we couldn't.
Very, very little. Internet was in its infancy in terms of a mass phenomenon. This was in 1994. And yes, that had a lot to do with it. Also, the fact that the U.S. had troops in Somalia from 92 up to 94, and they had been roundly defeated. That could have been part of the reason why Bill Clinton did not want to declare what was happening in Rwanda as a genocide, because he felt if that was the case, they would have to at least be compelled to engage in some type of military intervention. But instead, what they did, they recruited Rwanda after the genocide was over. After the RPF took power, they recruited them to participate in several military adventures throughout the East Africa region, particularly the later intervention in the DRC, which occurred in 1998, between 1998 and 2003. And the U.S. backed both Uganda and Rwanda in that military intervention, which eventually failed, but it did cause a lot of deaths, destruction, and destabilization in that region.
So if you all know, hopefully this does not happen, but if something happens to Ibrahim, I think you guys will all know where to point your fingers.
Yeah. And April 30th, this coming, actually it's tomorrow, supposed to be international demonstrations in solidarity with the government in Burkina Faso. So people should look out to see if there are any actions in their areas. And if they're not, they could organize one on their own. Doesn't take that much to organize a demonstration or a rally. Few people can do it, and you can utilize social media to build it.
This is true. Abayami, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for the invitation. Keep up the good work.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys. I hope you liked my guest. He's been on the show before. Abayami, he was recommended there by the wonderful, wonderful Margaret Kimberly. So I'm glad I got a chance to talk about Burkina Faso. I know you guys have been asking me to cover that story. I just had to find a guest to come on that is very knowledgeable about that particular area. But that is that. We do have more stories we're going to discuss, ladies and gentlemen. I will be going on vacation tomorrow, so you will not see me again until next Tuesday. But I do have a couple of interviews that you guys are going to see while I'm out. A couple of news stories as well that you'll see while I'm gone. Basically, I've recorded some interviews with some guests that you have not seen on the show. So it should be very interesting. So stay tuned for that. But you know how it is. It's May. It's time to get out there in the sun and have some fun. Tonight's theme is War is a Racket. And as you can tell with our first story and our guests, I think you can see where this conversation is heading for the rest of the show. Really quick, I do want to go ahead and shout out patrons, and then we'll get to the comments. Fam. Shout out to everybody who is a Sabby patron. Thank you so much for your support. Really do appreciate you. If you're interested in being a Sabby patron, I have 5 categories. Ultimate, Sabinators. There's also Sabsters. I think they're pretty cool. I don't know about you guys, but I think they're kind of cool too. And we also have Sabbies. And don't forget about members as well. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. That's what that little ticker is for. Yes, that's what that's for. Thank you guys so much. Really do appreciate all of you, fam. We have a good show tonight. A good show. It is definitely going to be weird not being live for 5 days. It is. It's kind of weird. Like, but we all have to take breaks every now and then. But yeah, definitely stay tuned. You'll see interviews with Brian Burlatek, Larry Johnson, and another Larry Wilkerson. So the two Larrys and Brian Burlatek. So those will premiere when I'm in DC. Okay. Let's get to some of the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, JJ, for the super chat. Sabby Sab, let's go. Let's go. If you're rocking with me, let me know. Let's go. Devin says, hey, Sabby, great mutual aid workshop last Saturday. I will be at the next one. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I'm going to host another one in May. So thank you to all of you who attended. I thought it went pretty well. Cloudness. Good evening, Sabby Sabs. Well, baby girl, you've been calling these fake ass politicians out before they start their lying strategies, before they pull their BS on voters. Salute to you, B1 fam. Thank you, Bose, who's been a member for 5 months. France takes 400 billion to 500 billion a year from its former 14 colonies in Africa as colonial tax for their independence each year. Isn't that crazy? I colonized your country, but give me your money. Thank you, Lion. Well done, Sabs. This discussion needs to be had to awaken as many people as possible. Please invite Franklin Nyamsi on your show. Franklin Nyamsi. I'll have to look him up. And thank you for the super sticker, James Starks. And thank you for the super sticker, Asma Ansari. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey. If you guys haven't done so, go ahead and do me a solid and smash that like button. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. Just like a Care Bear. Yeah. Okay. Let's get to our first story. Let's get to our first news story. Interesting things happening in the world of Trump, or Trump world, as we like to call it. Now, there have been a number of polls that have been released about Donald Trump's approval rating and new initiatives that have come from him. And I do want to talk about distractions, right? Because when Biden was president, I pointed out a number of times where there was virtue signaling, right? It wasn't actually doing anything for the people, for the working class. It was just, I don't know, posing, so to speak. And you're seeing some of that with Donald Trump too. And I want to bring up this example and we'll get to the approvals. So this came from the White House. Christopher Columbus is back. So check this out, guys. I'm bringing Columbus Day back from the ashes. The Democrats did everything possible to destroy Christopher Columbus, his reputation, and all the Italians that love him so much. Okay, pause. First of all, hold up. I think Christopher Columbus destroyed his own reputation. There's that. What did he bring to North America? First of all, he didn't even discover America. But what did he bring to North America? What did he bring to Cuba? Or what would be Cuba? Famine, disease. Christopher Columbus embarrassed himself. Second of all, this other point here about the Italians that love him so much. Look, man, some members of my family are Italian. I've never heard them say they love Christopher Columbus. I've never seen them celebrate Columbus Day. I've never seen this. Never seen it. If we were talking about like St. Patrick's Day, then I would beg to differ. Like, and I live in the Boston area, so I could say, yeah, you know, a lot of Irish Americans here, particularly in Massachusetts, yes, they do celebrate St. Patty's Day. Also, people who are not Irish celebrate St. Patrick's Day too. Everybody go out to the bars and get their drink on, and it is what it is. But not with Columbus Day. In fact, when we used to have the Columbus Day parades here in Boston, they look nothing like the St. Patrick's Day parade, nothing like the St. Anthony's parade. None of that. Okay. None of that. So let's stop pretending like this was such a big thing over here. They tore down his statues and put up nothing but woke, or even worse, nothing at all. Well, you'll be happy to know Christopher Columbus is going to make a major comeback. I am here reinstating Columbus Day under the same rules, dates, and locations as it has had all the many decades before. Okay. Again, this is a distraction. This is virtue signaling. Just like when Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer decided to kneel in kente cloth when people were saying, tell the police to stop killing Black people. That was virtue signaling. This is virtue signaling. This doesn't do anything for the people. I don't give a damn. You can call it whatever day, whatever you want to call it. That doesn't improve the material conditions of people's lives. That doesn't change economic situations in this country. And that is the distraction. And I say that because at the same time that he wants to bring back Columbus Day, he is trying to and has already proceeded to remove Black history from the National African American Black History Museum. Check this out.
Joining us on the news at 11, I'm Larry Miller. Multiple sources confirmed to WUSA 9 the Smithsonian Institution is starting to move out some artifacts from the National Museum of African American History and Culture. In fact, a civil rights leader and pastor said that he was told the artifacts he donated to the museum were being returned. Our Alexis Wainwright has the full story.
2 employees with the National Museum of African American History and Culture told me the museum is moving out some of its artifacts. Now, this news has ignited growing concerns among visitors who travel from all over the world to learn about African American history.
So I'm not disappointed. And it's unfortunate that people don't realize that if you don't know history, you will repeat history's horrors.
Reverend Dr. Amos Brown says he has seen it all. He's been a civil rights activist for 73 years and has been on the front lines of history. But now he feels some of the history is being erased. He received an email from the Smithsonian Institution this month informing him the artifacts he donated to the National Museum of African American History and Culture were being returned. The artifacts included a Bible Brown carried during the demonstrations with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and Jesse Jackson, and a copy of History of the Negro Race in America, one of the first books on racism in the U.S.
Let me pause here for a second. Why do you need to remove a Bible, like someone's Bible? Why do you need to remove that? Well, why is that? Why is that a problem, right? So Trump gave this statement earlier before, and he said that it's divisive. What's divisive about it? It's history. And some people don't want to go here, and some people don't want to take it to this level. But I think what a big part of this is about, it's a push somewhat from some of these donors, some of these AIPAC donors, Miriam Adelson donors. What is it about Black American history in this country that they don't want you to see? It's not just slavery. There's a civil rights movement, more and more, et cetera. But even when we talk about slavery, even in school, they don't get into the specifics of, I don't know, who built those ships. If you follow me, they don't want to get into that. So it's divisive because it makes a certain group look bad. Does that sound familiar? We'll go on a little bit more.
And his excuse was because they were under too much light.
And to be clear, you never asked for these books back, correct?
No. I called them, told them how unfortunate, how illogical it was.
We went to the museum Saturday afternoon to see the exhibit where Brown, the Bible, and the book were once featured. Do you know where the Bible originally was? Was it over here?
It was right there to the left of the narrative.
But we didn't see it. Brown said those artifacts have been with the museum since it opened in 2016.
We're not going to let nobody tell us what we can't read and what we can't celebrate as our artifacts.
He also said the lunch counter where the students from North Carolina A&T sat down and started the sit-in movement is also under discussion of being removed.
Why? Are they asking for any of the artifacts to be removed from the Holocaust Museum in DC? Oh no, they would never do that. Everybody see what's going on here? Okay. The lesson that I say to take from this, and we've had this conversation on call-in as well, is that I said it a couple days ago. This is why I think Black people, we need to fund our own stuff. We can't rely on the government to fund our history, to fund these museums. We really can't. Because the moment whoever is in charge at the time says, yeah, we're not going to spend federal dollars on that anymore, so go ahead and shut it down, then what do? It's gone. I said the same thing about the Target conversation. We talked about this a couple days ago. Why are people begging Target to sell their products when Target is like, yeah, you're out of here, bye? Why are we begging them instead of starting our own Target? I think this is something to think about in the future. We really need to fund our own stuff. And some people aren't going to like me saying that, but the reality is it is what it is, because what it shows you is that they can take anything away. And you don't own it, they can take it away. Now, I say this is all a distraction because what it is not showing you are these approval ratings. Now, these are new ones. This is from Harry, Mr. Animated. You guys know how animated Harry gets here. Trump now holds the worst foreign policy net approval rating. Now, I told you guys before, we talked about the economic approval rating. So that was down. Now we're getting into other areas. Now the foreign policy rating is down. Let's go ahead and get into this clip here.
Yeah, it's not good, Kate Baldwin. It's not good. I mean, the trend line here is pretty gosh darn clear. Trump's net approval rating on foreign policy. You go back to January, the start of Trump's term, he was above water, plus 2 points. Down he goes, down into the body of water, underwater, minus 13 points at this particular point. That is a drop of 15 points on the net approval rating since January. During Trump's first 100 days, if this is an audition, he is failing that audition in the minds of the American public. Way underwater.
We're pausing here. The plus 2 points in January for foreign policy may have been because that was at the start of his term and people trusted that or believed that, okay, he's going to end this war in Ukraine. He's going to, that was also after the ceasefire in Gaza. Don't forget about that. Like, he was a part of that as well. So that's probably what the plus 2 points was. But now here we are towards the end of April, and we see that people are still starving in Gaza. Food hasn't entered in over 50 days. Israel's broken ceasefire multiple times. Trump made a trolling video of how he was going to turn it into Trump Gaza, etc. And then when it comes to Ukraine, that still has not been settled. And there's been back and forth conversations there between Zelensky and Vladimir Putin as well. So now, again, I'm trying to show you guys that it started with the economy, but now we're seeing those dips in other areas as well.
Minus 13 points.
Talk to me about this in like other presidents in the first 100 days. How is this looking?
Let's put it in a historical context. Okay, foreign policy net approval at this point of presidency. The average president plus 17. Trump in his first term, he was at minus 12, not particularly good.
And this is a good important reference. This isn't, this isn't like a back-to-back terms. This is non-consecutive terms or first terms, which I think is obviously very important.
Correct. Minus 12 points there. That was the all-time record for a presidency, the 45th presidency of Donald Trump. You go to 47, he has broken his own record. He is the worst on record at this particular point. He was already the worst. Now he's even more the worst right now. And get that, some quick math, minus 13 plus 17. He is 30 points below where the average president is on net approval when it comes to foreign policy. The American people think he's doing an awful, awful, awful job, and they have rewarded him with the record of being the worst. I don't know if a medal comes with that, but if it did, he would get it.
So this is broad foreign policy. What about what obviously today, especially we're focused most on, which is Russia's war in Ukraine?
Yeah. Okay. So
notice what she did there. Notice how the focus is just on Russia's war in Ukraine, but not Gaza. Did everybody catch that? Okay.
When it comes to Russia and Ukraine, the recent Fox News poll asked about his net approval rating on these different countries, and we're on Russia. Dealings with Russia, minus 18 points. Dealings with Ukraine, minus 13 points. No doubt feelings towards Russia and Ukraine are impacting Trump's overall net approval rating on foreign policy, which at this point is the worst on record.
Harry Enten. Thank you.
Dude is so animated. He's out here. I always pick on Harry, but we said it before, right? Like war is a racket. Like you can see all the problems that come from war. And now there's these other numbers too that they're trying to figure out if Donald Trump's approval rating could affect or impact the GOP candidates in the midterms. Let's go ahead and bring this clip in here.
If the House GOP is under any illusions that Donald Trump's fall in the polls won't bring them down as well, they are living on Fantasy Island. What are we talking about here? Let's take a look at the generic congressional ballot. Democrats versus Republicans. We have 3 polls out within the last few weeks. What do they all show? They all show the Democrats up by 2 points in the CNBC poll. The Fox News poll that was out on Friday, look at that. Democrats up by 7. The New York Times poll that was out this Friday as well, but Democrats by 3. And
Pause. Does everybody notice? This is very interesting because the Fox News poll, which is conservative, which is right leaning, the Fox News poll has the Democrats up by 7 points. And the New York Times only has them up by 3 points. This is really interesting. This is Democrat versus GOP generic congressional ballot margin.
Keep in mind, the House GOP won the popular vote back in 2024 by a little less than 3 percentage points. So when you see 3, 7, 2, averaging 4, that is a tremendous shift. That is a shift of 7 points from the November 2024 elections away from the GOP to the House Democrats. Donald Trump dragging down the House Republicans.
Where are we seeing this shift in a most pronounced way?
Where are we seeing it? We've spoken about it, Mr. Berman. We're talking about independents. This is how you know that Trump is bringing down the House GOP. Look at Trump's net favorable rating. In October of 2024, according to the New York Times, it was minus 9 points. Look at where it is now, minus 30 points among independents. That's horrific. That's historically awful. Take a look at the generic ballot. In October of 2024, the Democrats were ahead, but only by 3, well within the margin of error. Look at where they are now, up 17 points. There is no way on God's green earth that the Republicans can hold on to the House of Representatives if they lose independents by 17 percentage points. My goodness gracious. This is what dreams are made of if you're House Democrats, and it's all being driven, or at least in large part being driven, by Donald Trump's rapid drop with
independence. And this is something I was telling people about, right? So now his approval rating is starting to have an impact on those GOP House seats. This is why the Democratic Party isn't willing to fight, right? Well, that and the money that's connected to all of this, right? Like corporate money is a big part of that, the main part of it. But also they're not willing to fight because they're basically following the strategy of let's just sit back, not do anything. Let's just let Trump self-implode and then we'll get back those House seats. But I do want to remind everyone, just because if Democrats were to take back the House in 2026, that still doesn't mean they take back the Senate, and the Senate has the second final say. So just because a piece of legislation passes in the House, oftentimes the problem that we would run into, right, is that it would stall in the Senate. Like if the Senate doesn't pass it, then it doesn't advance. So people have to put those 2 and 2 together. A lot of this talk about Democrats could take back the House, none of that matters because the Senate is obviously, they're the ones that make the decision. Yes, we're going to pass it. And then it goes to the president of the United States. In other words, unless you have the House, the Senate, and of course the White House, what we've seen in the past couple of years is that not much is going to get through for the working class. That's the reality of it, folks.
What does history tell us about how a party does heading into a midterm with the type of lead that Democrats have right now?
Yeah, okay, so I went back through history, right? And I looked at the opposition minority party. That, of course, is the Democrats right now. They're a minority in the House to the opposition of the party in the White House, Donald Trump, a Republican. The average House seats won by the opposition minority party, 234 when leading the generic ballot this early by at least 4 percentage points. That happened in 2006 and 2018. 2 huge Democratic years. Democrats love this number. Of course, we still have months to go. We'll see if history repeats itself.
We do, but this is an answer to the question is, why does it matter what these numbers show right now 100 days into the president's term? Well, there's some history that shows it might matter.
It's exactly right. Oftentimes, the generic ballot actually is quite predictive at this point.
Ariane, thank you very much.
Thank you, my friend.
So that's why the Democrats don't, plan to do anything. This is why Hakeem Jeffries is like, oh, we'll just let him self-destruct and we'll just leave it as it is. Now that was CNN, but now you're going to see Fox News. I was shocked to see this. Even Fox News is having a little bit of a meltdown here about Trump's approval rating. Trump's approval rating on taxes, 38% approve, 53% disapprove. This is Fox News polling. So keep that in mind, guys. This is not CNN, New York Times poll. This is a Fox News poll. On the economy, 38% approve, 56% disapprove. On inflation, 33% approve and 59% disapprove. Listen here.
This is President Trump's job approval rating on taxes, 38% approve, 53% disapprove. This is Fox News polling. 38% on the economy approve, 56% disapprove, 33% on inflation. We know this was huge in the election, 59% disapprove. But Scott Bessent had a very important message as the 100-day mark approaches on all of that. Listen from this morning.
We've got a three-legged stool here. It's trade, it's tax, it's deregulation. President Trump has come out of the blocks roaring. And I think this is something new for the American people. We're going to continue to make the U.S. the best destination for capital in the world.
And that something new might be the short-term pain people are feeling reflected in the polls, but will they hang in there, Robert, to see what is promised as long-term gain?
Yeah, let me be quick here. I mean, one, Steve knows a tariff is a tax on the consumer. Yes, it brings revenues, but it's not a tax cut to the consumer. So that's just not true. And Steve's actually written about that, as has Kevin Hassett. With respect to the three-legged stool, I think with short-term pain, you're seeing it in the polls. People don't know really what's going on. Things are actually, some prices are going up, some are going down. This is not actually the immediate, great, great economy that the president spoke about. Actually, half the economists thinks we're going into a recession.
This is
again, that's Fox News. I mean, it's gotten to the point now where I think they tried at some point earlier on to defend Donald Trump and say, let's see where the strategy goes with the tariffs. But now it's gotten to the point where even they are saying, yeah, this isn't good. And they're right. Some of the prices are going up. Some of them are going down and some of them are going up. Right. So I think we need to see a comparison between Donald Trump and other presidents. So let's look at the previous presidents, ladies and gentlemen, just so you have something to compare it to. We're just going to go to the chart here. How popular is Donald Trump? And we showed this rating here, 53% disapprove, 43.3% approve. And let's jump into how he stacks up against the other presidents. And I think you might find this pretty interesting because towards the end of their terms, none of these presidents had none of them had high approval towards the end of their term. I mean, we can see here Barack Obama is hanging around, down here, like at 20.7, George W. Bush, 18.5, Joe Biden, 10.9. So he's the lowest of Barack and Bush. But then you have Donald Trump, his first term down here at negative 14.7, which I do believe a lot of that was the pandemic, right? Like, I think that was a big part of that for Trump. But if you look at his current term, it's heading in that same trend down. Right now it's at 9.7. Negative 9.7. And you can see the numbers here as well. So how does Trump approval rating compare to the past presidents? You'll see this is him right here, obviously at the negative 9.7. If we look at Joe Biden and we put him up against him, Joe Biden was low, but Donald Trump right now is even lower. Now, obviously, he hasn't finished this term yet. So just keep that in mind. That approval could change. Donald Trump in 2017 Again, comparing him to his current term, 14.6, and comparing it to that negative 9.7. When we compare him to, it's funny, they went all the way back to Jimmy Carter, Barack Obama. You can see the comparison here. George W. Bush. And keep in mind, this is during like the Iraq War, still ahead. Bill Clinton. See who drops all the way down, right? Bill Clinton was negative 5.63. Donald Trump right now is a negative 9.7. Again, like I said, that could change. But Bill Clinton, so far, the lowest of the past presidents besides Donald Trump. George H.W. Bush actually had a pretty high approval rating, which is interesting because he did not win re-election. When you look back at this, you're like, holy shit. George H.W. Bush had a 49.04 percent approval rating, and he lost re-election. And you look at some of these others and you're like, Jesus Christ, right? Ronald Reagan, 32.3. Jimmy Carter, 45.92. They went all the way back to Gerald Ford, Jesus Christ, 4.69 here. Richard Milhouse Nixon, 45.62. LBJ, 65.74. Seems unbelievable, right? When you look back at this today. JFK, 62.38, and Dwight Eisenhower, 56.22. So when you compare him to other presidents, I think you can see there that, yeah, he's got a problem. He's got a problem. Now, again, it's still early in this term for him, so that could change. But starting out that way is never good. Remember, Joe Biden started off his presidency in the 80s. I remember, I think his like approval was like in the 80s when he first started. It was very high because it wasn't Trump. I think a lot of people were like, it's not Trump, so it's someone else. So, but then as the months went on, and then the war with Russia and Ukraine and all that, he just continued to decline and decline and decline. So when you see these statements from Donald Trump about Columbus Day, and you see what's happening with the African American History Museum, I do want you guys to understand that that's not doing something for working class people. Those things don't cost money. I want to be very clear about that. So that's not helping put money into working class people's pockets. Obviously, that's not increasing wages for people. So keep that in mind. Don't get distracted. And yes, war is a racket. Again, all these wars, I keep telling people, whether he started them or not, regardless who the president is, more and more of the American population are becoming anti-war. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Shout out to No Thing for becoming a Sabby member. Give No Thing a big whoop, whoop. No thing, no thing. Thank you, Mark. Sab, Columbus Day Italians are all Guidos. Thank you, Joseph. More like virtue less signaling. Tim says it's happening now with the Hidden History Museum, Sabby. It's in LA. Yeah, I think Roger Meadows told me about that. Itole says Harry is the opposite of quiet quitting. Let me tell you something. I think if Harry ever was fired from CNN, he might pull a Jerry Maguire. He might show up and say, oh, okay, I'm fired. Okay. I'm leaving. Who's coming with me? Who's coming with me? You guys expected me to just flip out? Max says, hi, Sabby. You mentioned that you live in the Boston area. I know a lot of Harvard and MIT students and staff. Did you graduate from either school? No, I worked there. I worked at MIT for a couple years, actually. So I worked with the students and I worked at Harvard for a short time. Harvard was weird. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was just the school that I worked with, but it was weird. Gregory says the reality is this country is being influenced by a terrorist state. Some might call those taking AIPAC money traitors to us all. Well said there, Greg. Well said. All right. We are moving on to the next story, ladies and gentlemen. We going to this one? Yes, Jesus Christ, the crazy story. Brace yourself for this one. So Ben Gvir was here in the United States. He's doing, I guess, this U.S. tour. Member of the Likud party, has some nerve to even set foot in this country, and in my opinion. But he was here hosting events, and apparently at one of these events, there was a woman who turned out to be a Jewish woman that was attacked by Zionists, I guess in some way, shape, or form, trying to defend Ben Gvir. Now you can see when he arrived, I want to show you this. You'll see when he arrived here, there were protesters waiting for him, telling him to go home. Check this out.
You piece of shit! This is our city, you fascist scum!
Where the hate?
This one, yeah.
When I was young, I used to think that we have to kick out all the actors. And today I think the situation is more complex.
Yeah, not someone that I would think most people who have been paying attention to what's happening in Gaza really want to speak with at this point in time, or even see in their town or in their city. Ben Gvir is probably one of the even more racist members of the Likud party. He has said very disgusting things about Palestinian people on video. He's also been seen on video saying, "We want all the land belongs to us." Netanyahu is disgusting. I would say Ben Gvir is a level above that, even nastier. Now, Code Pink confronted Ben Gvir, along with the protesters. Media confronted Israeli war criminal Ben Gvir today at the U.S. Capitol, and he completely lost it. And this is the Ben Gvir that we are used to seeing. Watch this.
You kill baby! You kill baby! You kill baby! You kill baby!
You are a racist. You are a war criminal. You are a war criminal.
Again, at the beginning, he is pointing fingers at Medea Benjamin and Cold Pink activists and telling them that they killed baby, right? As if Israel hasn't killed all these damn children, still spreading the lie that Hamas beheaded babies. We all know that has been debunked over and over again, but he needs to try to get some type of sympathy for Israel. So he continues to say, you killed the babies, you guys killed the babies, even though we have literally seen footage of Israel killing children. This is how propaganda works. Because the idea is that if you keep repeating it over and over, eventually it'll start to sink into the minds of the people and people will begin to believe it. But this time it isn't working. Why do you guys think he's here? Why do you think this guy is here, man? He knows the majority. They saw the poll the same way we saw that poll. He saw that poll that the majority of Americans are not supporting Israel anymore. So he's here to come and try to spread that propaganda and try to get people back on the side of Israel, because it's not good for Israel. It doesn't look good. They are imploding internally right now. They have internal chaos in Israel right now. So he points his finger at Medea Benjamin.
You kill baby! You kill baby. You kill baby. You kill baby.
You are a racist pig. No, you are a war criminal. You are a war criminal. You are a war criminal who spews hatred. You are disgusting. And you destroy my religion. You destroy my religion. And you are hatred. You be in The Hague. You are a racist. You're a criminal. And you're hurting.
It is true. He is a racist. Like I'm not even like he's said very disgusting things. He said kill them all. He said that Palestinian people were animals. Like he is very disgusting. And Medea Benjamin, don't forget, she is Jewish, right? So she's saying you are killing my religion. And this is especially so important for people to really understand, right? There is Judaism and there is Zionism. And for some, they want to continue practicing Judaism, practicing their religion. When you have people like Ben Gvir, who conflates the two, and I would argue, I don't think a lot of the settlers in Israel are religious. I don't think a lot of them are. I think a lot of them are secular. But when you conflate the two, it can give some people the impression that this is how all Jewish people feel. And that's not true. A lot of the people that were at the protest were Jewish. So people like Ben Gvir, yeah, he's a problem. He is a problem. So go Medea.
You're a criminal and you're hurting my religion. My religion as a Jew. You are creating the anti-Semitism. I never supported 9/11. You support genocide. You're destroying Judaism with your hate. Baby killer, extremist, racist, ethnic genocide. Get out of our house. We don't want you here. And you're destroying my religion. You're creating anti-Semitism. Shame on you.
Yeah, can we all please give a big applause there for Medea Benjamin, right? Standing up to him face to face. Do you hear what he said to her? He said, you supported 9/11. Anything, right? Now, there's a reason why I wanted you to see that, because I want you to see what happened to this woman, right? So this woman, bring this up here, was walking down the street. This woman walking down the street, right? The behavior that you see from Ben Gvir is similar to the behavior that you're going to see from the men who attacked this woman. Shout out to you, Dropside News, for this. In addition to being repeatedly kicked in the back of a mob of pro-Israel supporters chanting death to Arabs, the video shows one man heaving a full garbage can into the woman's legs, knocking her off balance. Again, this is a female. This is a woman. Watch this. Did you see that? He threw something at her head. Watch this. You see how this man just walked up to this woman and hit her in her head? Where's the outrage? Where's the outrage? Oh, I forgot. There's only supposed to be outrage at the peaceful pro-Palestinian protesters. The police are only supposed to come and kick them out and beat them, right? At the peaceful protesters. But you literally have a mob of Zionists following this woman down the street, kicking her and hitting her in her head. There's a cop right there with her. This is what no accountability looks like. This is what no accountability looks like. Let's continue. All of them against this one woman. Again, where are all the police with their riot gear? Where are the police with their riot gear the same way they showed up to confront the peaceful Palestinian protesters? Where are all those people at? Where are they at? Nowhere. Nowhere.
There's some weird Palestinian. Is that you? You want someone to bend you over and fucking rape you like they're doing in the...
So do you see how they're threatening her? Again, by the way, at the time, they don't know who this woman is. They assume that she's, I guess, Arab American. They assume she's a pro-Palestinian protester. They have no idea who this woman is, but you're going to find out. Yeah. So when this guy throws something at her head, why wasn't he arrested? Do you guys see how dangerous this is? This is what happens when there's no accountability. How people can just get away with things and all this kind of stuff just because of who they are. Look at this. They threatened this woman. I felt sheer terror. New York woman speaks out after mob attack outside synagogue hosting Israeli minister Ben Gvir. So do you see what just happened? The same type of energy and behavior that you saw come from Ben Gvir towards Medea Benjamin is the same type of behavior that you see coming from this mob that went after this woman. They were shouting at me, threatening to grape me. You see this? And there was a cop right there. Cop right there. Chanting death to Arabs. I thought the police would protect me from the mob. They did nothing to intervene. They did nothing to intervene because they gave those guys a pass. Imagine if it was the other way around. I want you to picture this. We'll use two different scenarios. Imagine if it was the pro-Palestinian protesters walking down the street after that woman that way. Imagine if it was that. Oh, the police would have shown up in riot gear and saying, arrest them all. You guys are evil. Arrest them all. Imagine that. Imagine that. Let's switch it around. Imagine if it was the BLM protesters who were walking down the street harassing this woman like that. The police would have been there in riot gear. But for some reason, there is one group that seems to be protected and not held accountable. They did this in front of a cop. You can't even say it's he said, she said. They said this right in front of an officer because they know they will not be held accountable. You can even see it here. Different angle. Who is the aggressor in this situation? This woman is being escorted by a cop. who is the aggressor in this situation. Because you see, this is what people need to see. Nobody, they had no reason to follow this woman. We'll get into the details a little bit more. This woman did nothing to them. They had no reason to follow this woman down the street, to kick her, to throw things at her, to threaten her. No reason. Okay? But yet, New York City had a mayor, Eric Adams, who sat up there for years and supported stop and frisk, which allowed NYPD police officers to target Black males who are just walking down the street minding their own business. Now, I don't agree with that. I don't think people should be searched walking down the damn street. But you got a whole mob right here. Where is Eric Adams? Where are all the police officers that lined up to escort Luigi Mangione, who they didn't even know was guilty or not, but called them guilty to make it seem like they're the superheroes in some corrupt Batman flick? Where are all those police officers now? When you have a mob, so all of you guys can get together and escort one person who's accused of killing a CEO, but you have a giant mob walking down the street, and because it's a different group, you're nowhere to be found. Don't tell me that there isn't privilege for some in this country. Don't tell me that there isn't entitlement for some in this country. Don't tell me. I don't want to hear it. You see it in real life, plain as day.
Your John voice is going on. TikTok is going on.
Now they can chant death to Arabs, but pro-Palestinian protesters can't say from the river to the sea. Where's the executive order to protect Arab Americans? Where's the executive order? Where's the executive order to protect Black Americans? Where's the executive order to protect Indigenous Americans? There is none. The whole damn government is bought. I don't give a damn if you're one of the politicians that don't take money from AIPAC or not. You're in a party that does. That part there, you can see he pushed over that trash can to try to trip her, right? Again, no arrest whatsoever, right? So when you hear people say, oh, don't talk about race, it's divisive. Don't talk about that, it's divisive. Who the hell are they trying to protect? Should you not talk about Israel because it's divisive? Should you not defend the Palestinian people because it's divisive? This is ridiculous. All of these men still have their jobs. Okay. And this woman walking down the street. Now let's get into a little bit of the details here so you can see. A Brooklyn woman said she feared for her life as she was chased, kicked, spit at, and pelted with objects by a mob of Orthodox Jewish men who mistook her as a participant in a protest against Israel's far-right security members. The assault, recorded by a bystander, unfolded on Thursday near the global headquarters of the Chabad Lubavitch movement in Crown Heights, where an appearance by Ben Gvir set off clashes between pro-Palestinian activists and members of the neighborhood's large Orthodox Jewish community. The woman, a neighborhood resident in her 30s, told AP she learned of the protests after hearing police helicopters over her apartment. She walked over to investigate around 10:30 p.m., but by then the protests had mostly dispersed. Not wanting to be filmed, she covered her face with a scarf. As soon as I pulled up my scarf, a group of 100 men came over immediately and encircled me, said the woman, who spoke to AP on the condition of anonymity because she feared for her safety. Look at this. Look at this. All these men after this woman. And she's a resident. She wasn't even a part of the protest. And even if she was, still. They were shouting at me, threatening to grape me, chanting death to Arabs. I thought the police would protect me, but they did not intervene. As the chants grew in intensity, a lone police officer tried to escort her to safety. They were followed for blocks by hundreds of men and boys jeering in Hebrew and English. The sad part about this are the boys who participated, the kids. Now, I say again, imagine if it was the other way around. If there was 100 black men and boys following a woman down the street, it would be a different story today. Different story. At one point, she and the police officer were nearly cornered against a building. I felt sheer terror. The woman recalled, I realized at that point I couldn't lead this mob of men to my home. I had nowhere to go. I didn't know what to do. I was just terrified. After several blocks, the officer hustled the woman into a police vehicle, prompting one man to yell, "Get her." The crowd erupted in cheers as she was driven away. The woman, a lifelong New Yorker, said she was left with bruises and mentally shaken by the episode, which she said police should investigate as an act of hate. I am afraid to move around the neighborhood where I've lived for a decade. It doesn't seem like anyone in any position of power really cares. A police spokesperson said one person was arrested, 5 others were issued summons following the demonstration. And I would say if you were black guys doing that shit, you probably wouldn't have even lived to tell that story. Goes on to say here, Eric Adams said on Sunday that police were investigating a series of incidents stemming from clashing protests on Thursday that began when a group of anti-Israel protesters surrounded the Chabad Lubavitch World Headquarters, a Jewish house of worship in Brooklyn. He said police had spoken to a different woman on the pro-Palestinian side of the protest who suffered injuries after she was harassed by counter-protesters. Photos shared online showed that woman with blood streaming down her face. I saw that picture. I can't show that on here. Let me be clear. None of this is acceptable. In fact, it is despicable. From Eric Adams. New York City will always be a place where people can peacefully protest, but we will not tolerate violence, trespassing, menacing, or threatening. But you do. And you did. This was her own community that did this to her. It's her neighborhood. It goes on to say here, previously convicted in Israel of racist incitement and support for a terrorist group, he has called on his supporters to confront Palestinians and assert Jewish power. Ladies and gentlemen, it's all happening right in front of you. It's all happening right in front of you. And this is our government is backing it. Now think about all the representatives that represent New York, right? Where's Hakeem Jeffries? Where's Richie Torres? Why aren't they issuing a statement? Why aren't they calling out this act of violence? Why are they so quiet? Because they support the lobby group and they take money from the lobby group, AIPAC, that advocates for Israel. Pay attention to who's quiet, folks. Pay attention to who doesn't want to say anything when there is violence that is done by the Jewish community towards others, but are quick to speak up when they feel there is violence from the pro-Palestinian protests. Those agents, and I call them agents, Hakeem Jeffries and Richie Torres, they are agents of white supremacy. I call it like I see it. Anything to keep their seat and to advance their political career. And Black people, we need to have a serious conversation about just being so quick to support people just because they're the same complexion as us, even when they clearly sell out to our faces and they don't advocate for our issues and they continue to sit up there and support white supremacy. Let's go to some of the comments here in the chat, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Mark. USMC General Smedley Butler wrote, "War is a racket" in 1935. Thank you, Pitchforks. Tomorrow is Walk for the SAHEL, Walk for Ibrahim. That's right. Lance says Israel has about 10 years left. I'm telling you, it's imploding from the inside. Thank you, Ace. Ben Gvir asked to nuke Gaza. He also asked to kill Palestinian prisoners to cut down the population. The man is a psychopath. He should have never been. First of all, they shouldn't have let him come here. Period. Thank you, JJ. They even pushing the cop. If that was a Black mob, they would have got shot. Bingo. Thank you, Marvin. Jessica Tish, NYPD Commissioner. Tish family is Zios. Skylar said, standing for Israel is really going to lead this country to depths from which we may never recover. I agree. Thank you, Mimi. My family and I are so thankful for your show. Let everyone know about the march in Africa tomorrow in support of Burkina Faso from Ibrahim Traore. Thank you. Hey. We can go to part 2 of Type V and C, Eric. Thank you. Where's the love? And CBC members supporting this disgusting. All of them quiet. Jim Clyburn, Maxine Waters, all of them quiet. And thank you for this one. Please, folks, go independent and vote them all out. Thank you. Thank you so much. Hey. All right, guys, go ahead and smash that like button if you haven't done so. Thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. Hey. All right. Well, this is an interesting story, folks. Oh, shoot. I wasn't done with that story. Sorry, Eric, you'll have to fix this for the clip. I'm sorry, guys. I wasn't done with that story. My bad. I did want to show this as well. Chris Hedges said something, and I think you guys need to hear this. I'm greatly concerned about this. Listen.
I'm deeply concerned about the escalation in fascist repression we would see in the aftermath of a potential major terror attack in the U.S. Yes, Tim, that is probably my primary concern. Given what we've done in Gaza, given the slaughter that we have aided and abetted, whole families wiped out. And remember, in Gaza, families live together either in a block, oftentimes because it's one of the most densely packed places on the planet, or even in the same apartment building. Oftentimes when a son or a daughter will get married, they'll simply add another apartment to the building. And so when they're wiped out, you've destroyed an entire generation. So you have, at this point, hundreds of thousands of Palestinians who've been completely dispossessed, abandoned. They feel correctly. They've been forgotten by all of the global community, with maybe the exception of Yemen and Hezbollah, maybe. And that trauma, that suffering, that anger will eventually lead to, what the CIA call blowback. And I think it's inevitable that there will be some kind of an attack, a lashing out at these forces, particularly the United States, that have enabled this genocide. And you're right, that's a gift to the Trump administration. And they'll use it in the same way the Nazis used the Reichstag fire to impose martial law, or in the case of Stalin, the assassination of Kirov. That's a big concern of mine. And at that point, then, as bad as things are, things will get much, much worse.
Yeah. And I think Chris has a point, because the thing is, you can't just continue to beat a group of people down and then you expect them to just say, okay, whatever, we're just going to put up with this. Right. Now, I want to show you something else, because you need to see why these things are happening. Leaked audio here from AIPAC's CEO. Listen to them basically brag about how they control Congress, right? How this lobby interest group is controlling the politicians. Listen to this.
I hear the leaked audio of the CEO of AIPAC talking about how pretty much they have compromised every single administration in our government, including Trump's. Didn't I tell y'all? Matter of fact, let y'all hear the audio first and then I'll come right back.
Lobby the executive, but as we were talking about, there was a discussion earlier about Congress being representatives of the people. Well, the White House has to be responsive to Congress. And so it's working with, at the time, our friends on the Democratic side of the aisle to apply pressure the way that they know how to an administration, as it will be with this administration. I was talking about the people who will get appointed to some of these jobs. Look, at the top level, you talk about Marco Rubio and Michael Waltz. Those three people have something in common. They all serve in Congress. They all have relationships with key AIPAC leaders in their communities.
So do you hear that? He's talking about like these politicians, and he mentioned people that are part of Trump's administration, but they're part of both parties, like that are part of this, how they're serving AIPAC, right? This is the CEO of AIPAC, Elliot Brandt, caught on a hot mic bragging about how they control the Trump administration and Congress, and not just the Trump administration, all of the administrations as long as I have been alive.
Lines of communication are good. Should there be something questionable or curious that we need access on the conversation to? You never know. One of the first candidates I ever met with as an AIPAC professional in my job as being candidate for Congress was a guy named John Ratcliffe. He was challenging a long-time incumbent member of Congress in Dallas. And I was like, this guy looks like he could win the race, and I go talk to him. He had a good understanding of the issues. And a couple of weeks ago, he took the oath as the CIA director.
Remember when I made a video talking about a certain group of people that JFK said needed to sign up for being foreign adversaries of our country, and they never got a chance to do it because he was taken out? Everything they don't just run amok in American government, they run amok in every fucking government. They've been doing it for centuries. We need to get them the fuck out of our country. I'm talking to Democrats. I'm talking to Republicans. We are fighting each other when these people are funding both sides.
What did I tell you guys? What I tell you? Both sides, Democrats and Republicans, all to do the bidding for Israel. As part of the reason why we really don't practice America first. As part of the reason why you got all these other countries where everybody got a job. You look at Israel, they have free healthcare, they have free public college, but our politicians say, no, you can't have it. Now make this make sense, ladies and gentlemen. We give them $3.8 billion every year. They have free healthcare, they have free public college, but our government is telling you, no, you can't have it. And they have managed to find a way to convince people that they tell the conservatives it's those crazy radical lefties and they want socialism. So then you hate us. And then on the other side, they tell lefties, progressives, liberals, no, we're not all the same, but those who would tend to support the Democratic Party or those policies somewhat in a shape or form. Then they come over to our side and say, those conservatives are crazy and they want you gone, especially if you're a minority. And don't ever, try to do anything with them. If anything, you got to vote for the Democratic Party because God knows they are going to try to take everything from you and you're not going to even have any Medicare or anything like that. But our government has a lobby group who has the government doing the bidding for Israel first. There is no American first in this country. There is no America first. If it was America first, we wouldn't have sent jobs overseas. If it was America first, we would build our own machines for our own factories and not depend on supplies and these machines to be built in other countries. There is no America first. Stop it with this lie. Do not believe it. Do not allow these people to brainwash you. It is Israel first. And that's what it's been as long as I've been alive. Now you ask yourself this question. They don't want you to have these things, and it's not because they cannot afford it. They don't want you to have it because they don't want some of us to have it. They didn't want you to have health care because they didn't want Black people to have it. I've gone over this on the show before. They wanted us to die off. And what drives me crazy is people really feel like they really got you out there thinking, well, if you support the Democrats, then we can push. You ain't pushing shit. I want to get this through everybody's thick skull. There is no push them against AIPAC. You can't push people against their owner. You have to get the owner out. And that's what people don't want to admit. They don't want to admit it, but they fucking know it. They know it. They know you can't get they know you can't. These people aren't going to fight back against AIPAC. If they do, they're gone. They're not going to have a job, a political career anymore. That's what they're asking them to do. And the majority of politicians are not going to take that risk. It's all controlled. That's why Ben Gvir can come here and he can talk hate and he can push people to attack other people and walk right out of this country like nothing happened. That's why. But you had Black guys getting stopped and frisked from walking down the street. You have a guy who come from a whole other country come into your country, come into New York City, pushing this shit, telling them, oh, go after her, etc., whatever. Go get them and yada, yada. Nothing happens. So until everybody fully understands that it is controlled, we won't get anywhere. That's step one. You voting for said Republican, said Democrat does not change anything for lobby interest groups, and it damn sure don't change anything for Israel or AIPAC. Period. We'll let her finish here.
And causing us to fight each other. They're making all of the plays. They're making all of the rules, not our fucking government. We've been saying for the longest that we have a shadow government, and it's them. They are our government. While we're out here going back and forth, arguing on these social media apps, hating each other because we voted a specific type of way. So we're fucked either way. We no longer have a voice in our country anymore because our vote damn near really don't even matter. He just proved it. No matter who's in office, they hold the cards.
Yep.
So Democrats, y'all need to wake up. Republicans, y'all need to wake up. We really damn near all we got right now. The American people, the ones who actually took time out of their day to go cast their vote, ones who have to worry about the high cost of living, ones who have to worry about their children possibly being harmed or not educated properly in these schools. They're the ones that create the education system. They're the ones that create and set the standards of living. Y'all marching out here for the wrong shit. Get it together. We got to do something, y'all. This just pissed me off.
That's why Ben Gvir can come here and do what he did. And that's the hard truth that people don't want to reckon with. I want to say all people, but I think a lot of people don't want to reckon with that hard truth right there. They don't want to reckon with it, because then they may have to admit, are you telling me that voting for Kamala or Trump doesn't really move the needle for Americans, for economic issues, etc.? We don't come first economically. Israel comes first economically. They make sure they got money for them. Now, I have an announcement, and I'll show you an alternative, because we had a mutual aid workshop over the weekend, and people need to see. This is a big announcement from Unholy Rome, my comrade at RBN. It's finally happening, folks. Revolutionary Blackout Network is doing a joint mutual aid event with Fred Hampton Jr. This is going to be at the Fred Hampton House in Chicago, July 16th, family barbecue and fundraiser. Rome said the goal was 8,000. You can follow Rome on Twitter. Most of you guys, I think, know Rome anyway. Tour for the poor. If you want to donate, you can donate via Cash App, $ Tour for the Poor. They are doing a 20K diaper giveaway, baby clothes, gift cards, etc. Again, savethehamptonhouse.org. That is at 804 South 17th Avenue, Maywood, there. So this is one of the things that those of us do for Revolutionary Blackout Network. We do mutual aid. We organize within our community, sometimes helping people in other communities. This is why I say a lot of people get depressed if their president doesn't win or their candidate doesn't win. Those of us that are organizing and doing mutual aid, we're seeing those wins. We're seeing impact on the local level. And that's really what it comes back to, is community. Now, I just told you that the Congress is controlled by the lobby interest groups. So you know you ain't really moving nothing there until you get corporate money out of electoral politics. This whole narrative that people keep telling you that you can push these people, it is a lie. But what you can do is you can organize within your community. Now, Rome talked about this. I'm going to go ahead and play this. He's very excited.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. If you didn't see the post yesterday, here's a reminder. We have an event going down in Chicago with the Black Panther Cubs. We're trying to give away 20,000 diapers, food, and clothes to those in need. If you are in Chicago and you would like to attend this meeting, hit me up personally. I will give you my personal phone number and we can connect and do the damn thing. I'm not gonna lie, it's been a hell of a ride. If you've been with us for the years of RBN, then this is long overdue. And it's just great to rebuild these bridges and walk through the fire and still be standing tall. So if you would like to contribute, once again, I'm gonna drop the links below. And shout out to Chairman Fred Hampton Jr. Without you, this would not be possible. Shout out to all of our followers, supporters. Without you guys, this would not be possible. And it's a great thing. It's a great thing. We're gonna be doing some great things for people in need, especially in these times where nobody can afford anything. So if you can, please donate, and we're gonna make sure that those donations get to where they need to be. We're going to make sure that the people get the diapers, the food. And then we're going to make sure we push revolutionary spirit. And it's going to be a great time. So if you would like to, come out. If you're in Chicago, please come out and help us out. It's going to be a great day, man. I'm telling you, July 16th, it's going to be a beautiful day. And I just wanted to thank you in advance, because without you guys' support, I don't know what we would do. We would be dead in the water. So, yeah.
This is what it's all about, folks. Helping out your community. Again, if you're just joining that event, that's a huge announcement there. RBN and Fred Hampton Jr. collaborating for a mutual aid event, family barbecue and fundraiser, tour for the poor. And that is going to be in the Chicago area, giving away 20,000 diapers, baby clothes, gift cards, etc. This is big. I know this is something that Rome has been working on for quite some time. And this is what it comes back to. I really want to push people sometimes, like, don't spend as much time on your phone, get out in the streets, talk to your neighbors, and build community. I really do feel like social media has ruined community building efforts. I really do. This is why sometimes I just turn my phone off. Like sometimes I do. Sometimes I just turn it off because I'm like, I don't want to do it. You know what I mean? Because like before we had these smartphones, what were we doing? Right? Think about that. Interesting story that we got to come up with. Got to get into actually here that I think is going to be interesting to particularly any of you, if you have teenagers or actually if you have kids altogether, if you work in education, I think you're going to want to hear this story. There's a report that was just released about the number of 18-year-olds in this country. And it's not something I was just paying attention to for no reason. Like I wasn't paying attention to the number of 18-year-olds, right? So, but this report here is sending an alert that I think people should be very much aware of. And I'll get into the cause of this and a little bit more data. The number of 18-year-olds is about to drop sharply, packing a wallop for colleges and the economy. Okay, so this is a big one. Pickup trucks with trailers and cars with yawning trucks pulled up onto untended lawns in front of buildings from which people lugged books, furniture, mattresses, trophy cases, and artwork. Anything else of value had already been sold by a company that specializes in auctioning off the leftover assets of failed businesses. At least one of the buildings was soon to be demolished altogether, its red brick walls dumped into its 1921 foundation. This was the unceremonious end of Iowa Wesleyan University, a 181-year-old institution that closed in 2023 after financial losses due in part to discounts it gave out as it struggled to attract a shrinking pool of students. All the things that are mementos of the best 4 years of a lot of people's lives are sold to the highest bidders when a college closes. It's coming from Doug Moore. There will soon be many more such scenes. Listen to this, guys. The current class of high school seniors is the last before a long decline begins in the number of 18-year-olds, the traditional age of students when they enter college. Now, long story short, there is a decline in the birth rate in this country, and that decline has existed for years. I'll show you the numbers in just a second. But how would this impact the economy? Peep this, fam. This is going to impact higher education, obviously, because if you don't have more students graduating from high school to apply to college, that is going to hurt admission numbers at these universities. In other words, people are not going to hit their targets. I worked in higher ed. I know how that works. Like, it's important that you try to hit those targets or someone might be out of a job. We'll get back to the job thing in a second. Teachers may also be impacted when we look at K through 12, because if we are having that decline in the child birth rate, that means that class sizes will be reduced. They'll get smaller and smaller. And it could get so small to the point where the administration could say, you have 15 students in your class. It would be cheaper for the school to combine your class with another teacher's class and lay you off. And I want to remind you guys that some states do not allow teachers to unionize or to walk out. So keep that in mind. So that can affect jobs for teachers, K through 12, and all the other administrators that work at these institutions as well, not just teachers, but secretaries, administrative assistants, etc. And that can affect jobs at the university, because let's keep it real. I told you guys years ago, 10-year track that's going to be a thing of the past at some point. More universities have been hiring adjunct professors instead because it's cheaper. They charge them by the credit hour. They don't give them benefits most of the time from what I've seen. But the reality is at the universities, if you don't have a certain number of students enrolled in your class, the class is canceled. It's happened to me. There have been times when I registered for a class and there weren't enough students who signed up for the class, so the class was canceled. That means less credits that said professor is teaching, which also means less pay. Let's go on a little bit more here. This so-called demographic cliff has been predicted ever since Americans started having fewer babies at the advent of the Great Recession around the end of 2007, a falling birth rate that has not recovered since, except for a slight blip after the pandemic. What happened in 2007? Some of you remember the housing crisis? So obviously during that time, not as many people were trying to have babies because they were trying to worry about keeping their job. They didn't know if they were going to pay their rent. People lost their homes. You see, sometimes the ghosts of the past come back. And I've been saying this for quite some time, that housing crisis is still kind of with us. It's like, it's not here, but I feel like the remnants are still there. Meaning we're still seeing the effects of that housing crisis, the subprime mortgage crisis. We're still seeing it. So this never really did go away. Yes, the economy improved, but now we're starting to see where this is heading, right? Demographers say it will finally arrive in the fall of this year, 2025. That's when recruiting offices will begin to confront the long anticipated drop off in the number of applicants from among the next class of high school seniors. Listen to this. The downturn isn't just a problem for universities and colleges. It is a looming crisis for the economy, with fewer graduates eventually coming through the pipeline to fill jobs that require college educations, even as international rivals increase the proportions of their populations with degrees. Why do you guys think Bill Gates is pushing AI to take over teaching, to take over medicine? We covered this story where Bill Gates said in 10 years, AI will be your teachers. AI will be your doctors. They have been anticipating this population decline for quite some time. It started in 2007, where people said, I can't afford this, I'm not having kids. So as much as sometimes the talking heads like to make it seem like Gen Z, all of a sudden, like people just woke up one day recently and decided they're not going to have kids because they want avocado toast. No, people started making this decision in 2007 during the housing crisis. The impact of this is economic decline. This is coming from Jeff Stroll, director of Georgetown University Center on Education and the Workforce. As fresh data emerges, the outlook is getting only worse. An analysis by higher education consulting firm Ruffalo Noel Levitz, using the latest available census figures, now projects another drop in the number of 18-year-olds beginning in 2033. After a brief uptick, by 2039, this estimate shows there will be likely 650,000 or 15% fewer of them per year than there are now. If you're just joining this alarm, the number of 18-year-olds is about to drop sharply. This is going to be a problem for colleges and for the economy. Now let's look at the data. Let's pull it up. Pull up to my bumper, baby. In a big fat limousine. Okay, let's look at the dates here, ladies and gents. And you can see the decline here. So let's start here with 2000. In 2000, you can see 14.40, right? So we're looking at the birth rate. A little bit of a dip here, 14.10 in 2001 to 2002. Increase in 2003, 14.10. And pretty steady there, right? There's a bump here in 2006. And then we get to 2007, and you will see 14.30. Then the housing crisis happens, and that's when everything goes downhill from there. And you will see when you look at these numbers and you compare them to the numbers in the 1960s, in the 1970s, you just don't see the same type of birth rate happening throughout the country. It's just, there's nothing else like it. So it continues to decline. 08, 14, 09, 13.50, 2010, 13, 2011, 12.70, 2012, 12.60, 2013, 12.40. I told you they've been anticipating this for a while. 2014, 12.50, a little bit of a bump, then goes back down in 2015. And then I think where it gets the lowest of the low before the drop off, right about here in 2018, 11.6. 11.60, 11.40, 2019, 2020, 10.90. Again, the pandemic, right? So 2021, you see a little bit of a bump right after the pandemic, 11, and 2022 steadily at 11 there. But if you notice, if you look back in the 1960s, 18.40, 1970, 18.40, Jesus Christ. I mean, if you go back to 1961, 23.30, there is nothing like those numbers as you get into the 2000s. Notice how it goes down, it decreases, and it continues to decrease. It doesn't change. It's not significant. So it just goes to show you the number of people, the number of babies that people had in the 60s and even the 70s, and you compare that to now, a lot of this goes back to economics. That's part of it. A lot of people just can't afford it. Doesn't mean they don't want to have children, but even some people who want to have children, they economically just can't afford to. So they don't end up having them. That's one part. The other part, and this is something I think some people don't want to reckon with, but I said it before, incarceration. Incarceration is a big part of this. We go back to the war on drugs, right? So if the men are taken away and they're put into prison, so obviously that's going to have an impact there as well. So this is gonna be a problem, and I'm sounding the alarm about this right now. And even if you don't work in those professions, I think you still need to know about this, because who's going to be coming into your industry if there aren't as many people? Now, why do I tell you about this as well? Remember, Trump administration looking at $5,000 baby bonus to incentivize public to have more kids. Why do you think he was considering this? Why do you think he was considering this? They know. All the billionaires know. It's not just Bill Gates. They all know. Elon Musk, remember what he said? Told everybody start having babies. They all know. Now, $5,000 isn't going to be able to take care of a child. Hell, the hospital bill to deliver a baby is going to be a lot more than that alone. And that's with insurance. But this is why. Now, if we go back and we look at what Market Watch said about 2007, this was another one, right? So the U.S. birth rate has fallen since 2007, Great Recession, even as growth and wealth have recovered. People are afraid. people are scared, right? Like, think about it. If you're one of the people that lost your home in the '08 housing crisis, I mean, you probably were never able to recoup that wealth, right? The wealth that you lost, most people. But you see how, look at this, the birth rate, see how again, '07, boop, boop, just down, down, down. That's what did it. Now, had that not happened, I don't think it would have fallen like that. But people are broke. Like, they just can't afford it. Also, another part of this, student loan debt. A lot of people try to do what their parents may have done, go to college, get a degree, get a good paying job, or hopefully it's supposed to be a good paying job. That isn't always the case. And then you can get married and then you can start a family, right? That's what's supposed to happen, but that hasn't been happening for a lot of people, And then, of course, there's also, the reality is, yes, there is abortion as well, but abortions didn't start in 2007. I'm worried what is to come for the economy, but I guess we'll just all have to sit back and wait and see. But yeah, everybody needs to pay attention to what's going on. And at this point, I don't know what to tell people to do. I feel like no matter what field that you go into, it's just not safe. I can't sit up here and tell you go to college and, become a teacher or become a doctor. I honestly can't tell you that because I don't even know. I don't know if those fields are not going to be replaced by AI in the future. I think this is when people are going to need community the most. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gentlemen. Terry Hinton said the American dream is over. Yeah, there it is. There it is. Laura said, I have 5 grown kids and 1 kid has 3 kids and the rest have no interest because they feel like they need to help raise their nibblings. All right. Thank you, Snork. Co-pays were also to make it difficult for Blacks. That's right. Yep. Co-pays, that 20%. The co-pays and co-insurance. You're right. Thank you. Where's the love? Simply put, USA is a big plantation for the world. Here you go. The Oracle said, and don't forget how Bibi was allowed to address Congress and got more standing ovations than you can shake a stick at. That's right. Thank you, Chris. I live close to the Hampton House. Oh, I'll be there. Time for everybody to tap in and get active. Based. Rome would love to hear that. Thank you, radical leftist extremists. Anyone who can be replaced by AI will be replaced. There it is. You guys see it now. Like, you guys ever watch the movie reviews on YouTube? I usually watch like those ending explain movies or the ending explained videos or the reviews. And I notice now a lot of times there's more AI videos for that. And I'm like, next, because I don't want to hear a monotone voice. I don't want to hear that. So thank you, Star Funny. There is always the military wink. No thanks. My family was in the military. we good. That's a scary part too, though, is that more people may feel like they have to go into the military now because of that. And thank you, Juanita. The real reason the birth rate is going down, Sabby, is the white birth rate is going down. The white population will be the minority by 2050. Interesting. Okie dokie. We have one more story for you folks, and it's I don't want to say it, I told you so, but we got to go out on a bang. I'm going on vacation tomorrow, so we got to end with this because I'm just eating the story up. Eating this story up. Okay. Smash the like if you haven't done so. If you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share. But Jesus Christ, shout out to Dropsite News for confirming what many of us said last year when all these people were trying to give us hell because we were voting third party. Reports. Biden officials admit They never pressured Israel for a ceasefire. Again, Biden officials admit they never pressured Israel for a ceasefire, as Israeli leaders boast of playing Washington. Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, AOC played so many people who wanted to believe that it was true, who refuse to see the signs right in front of their face. When I said last year, if you are giving them said money, if you keep giving them the weapons, when I said this, that meant that you're not pressuring them for a ceasefire. That's like me pressuring you to lose weight and I'm stuffing your mouth with pizza. And this confirmation hits the nail on the head. And I'm glad Tribeside News did it because, again, like Ryan supports the Democratic Party, but he's been very critical about them on this issue. So it came from them. We're going to play the video too. A sweeping Israeli Channel 13 investigation has exposed the Biden administration complicity in Israel's 19th month war on Gaza. 9 top Biden officials acknowledge avoiding real pressure on Israel, even as the death toll surpassed 30,000. Israeli leaders openly bragged they dragged about the war, playing for time until Trump's return. Let me pause there for all the people listening, especially for those who are Palestinian Americans, Arab Americans, etc. Let me make something very clear. Biden and Kamala Harris dragged their feet to delay for Trump's return. They basically sacrificed your people to wait for Trump's return. Now, some of the Kamala stands, they're not going to like me saying this, but I told you in 2024, that woman and Mr. Biden were not pressuring them for a ceasefire. How the hell you pressure them and you're still giving them weapons? Boop. Former National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, Ambassador Tom Nides, and others defended their unwavering support for Israel, even as they admitted enabling a campaign one U.S. aide described as killing and destroying for the sake of killing and destroying. We'll get back to the rest of this investigation. I want you to see the video from Channel 13.
The most significant political peril of Joe Biden's political career. The easiest thing for Joe Biden would have been to do, if he was worried about the votes in Michigan, is to basically, get a little soft. He refused to do it. And by the way, there was an enormous pressure on him inside the White House to change his position. So when I hear comments about he wasn't good enough or he didn't have Israel's back, am I disgusted by it? 100%. Is it true? 100% no. Can you imagine if if Amos was meeting with Hamas, negotiating with Hamas? Do you understand the level of anger that would come out of this?
חסד עשה הקדוש ברוך הוא במדינת ישראל שביידן היה הנשיא בתקופה הזאת, כי זה היה יכול להיות הרבה יותר גרוע. אנחנו נלחמנו למעלה משנה, ומעולם הממשלה לא בא ואמר הפסקת אש עכשיו.
Pause. Let's go back. I'll read it out just in case some of you may be driving or whatever. I want you to listen to what he said.
אנחנו נלחמנו
We fought for over a year,
למעלה משנה,
and no government ever
מעולם הממשלה לא בא ואמר הפסקת אש.
came and said, stop fighting now. Never, never, no government ever Joe Biden lied to you. Kamala Harris lied to you. AOC lied to you. They're working tirelessly for a ceasefire. I told people that was a lie back then, but because people go into their camps and their teams, they wanted me to sit here and make excuses for what AOC was saying when I knew that woman was lying to you and she knew she was lying to you. They never, ever, ever pressured Israel for a ceasefire.
עכשיו, מעולם לא. זה לא דבר מובן מאליו.
And that is not something to take for granted, he said.
Having the Prime Minister of Israel question the support of the United States after all that we did, do I think that that is a right and proper thing for a friend to do? I do not. And I will always stand firm behind the idea that Israel has a right to defend itself and the United States has a responsibility to help Israel. And I'll do that no matter who the prime minister is, no matter what they say about me or the US or the president that I work for.
See that?
קהל ישראלי התקשה להבין את עוצמת הדרמה שטמונה בכך שבכיר, דיפלומט כמו ג'ייק סליבן,
They're going to the drama of Jake Sullivan here.
מדבר בצורה הזאת. אולי זו הטרגדיה של ממשל ביידן במלחמה.
This is the tragedy of the Biden administration in this war.
הם היו יותר מדי מחויבים לישראל, יותר מדי
They are too committed.
ציונים כל כך מחוברים לפה.
Too many Zionists were attached to the mouth.
שלא הייתה להם את היכולת ללחוץ באמת את
that they did not have the ability to really pressure Benjamin Netanyahu. Does everybody hear what he just said? Too many Zionists were attached to the mouth. They did not have the ability to pressure Benjamin Netanyahu. How is that any different from what you see with Trump's administration when it comes to Israel? Yeah, Trump's a little bit more vocal about it. But Biden was also complicit and willing to go along with whatever Israel wanted here for the most part. But he lied and made you believe that he was pushing back against Benjamin Netanyahu. He wasn't. If Biden had spoken the way that Trump has been speaking about Israel, and Biden was more, had no filter in the way that like Donald Trump does it, right? I think more people wouldn't have fallen for this. This is why I say the Democrats are not a truly opposition party. They just do it in a nicer, kinder way to make you think that they're doing something different.
נתניהו, לכפות עליו עסקת חטופים, הסכם עם סעודיה, הפסקת אש, הרבה יותר מוקדם.
Force him to sign a hostage deal, a Saudi agreement earlier. Netanyahu saw this.
נתניהו ראה את זה, הבין כמה הם פגיעים בשנת...
Saw how vulnerable they were in an election year.
וקנה זמן, עד שטראמפ...
And bought time until Trump came into power. What did I tell you guys? They literally let Israel slaughter civilians for over a year. For over a year. Now, that was on Biden and Kamala, right? Now let's go back to this investigation that they uncovered here, because I do want to show this to people. Killing and destroying for the sake of killing and destroying. Ilan Goldberg, a senior national security aide, described the war's aimlessness. If they're never going to do this, it doesn't matter what the outcome is. Hamas is still going to control Gaza. You're just killing and destroying for the sake of killing and destroying, but you're not building an alternative. U.S. officials pushed a post-war plan modeled on the anti-ISIS campaign, posing that Arab states temporarily secure Gaza, but Netanyahu blocked it, refusing any role for the Palestinian Authority. Far-right Israeli ministers, Ben Gvir and Smotrich, openly pushed for reoccupying Gaza and rebuilding settlements. Netanyahu refused to advance alternatives, keeping the door open to their demands. We fought for over a year and the administration never said ceasefire now. And then this is the statement that you just saw from this gentleman here. Now, We are bringing this up because Ilhan Omar even retweeted this. She said, we all knew they weren't working tirelessly on a ceasefire, and it was all a lie. Okay. But see, here's the problem with what Ilhan said, right? Elias, that makes your complicity in the genocide and their campaign running on all of it more shameful. You posed for campaign photos with the leaders committing a genocide against Muslim people and encourage people to vote for them. You can never be redeemed. So let's go back to what Ilhan Omar is saying here. Everybody think about this for a second, because she did call it out at the time. She called it out after AOC made that statement. We'll get to that in a second. But the point that Elias makes here is that, yes, you said that then, and you're saying it again now. You knew that, but you told people to support them anyway. You knew it and you didn't fight it. You didn't fight against it. And we all cannot forget, Jesus Christ, the memorable statement here from AOC at the Democratic National Convention.
And she is working tirelessly to secure a ceasefire in Gaza and bringing hostages home.
AOC lied to you when she said that, and she knew that she was lying. And you know she knew she was lying because Ilhan Omar checked her right after that and said they're not working tirelessly on a ceasefire. This is what you would get with President AOC. This is what I'm trying to tell people. AOC is reminding me too much of Barack Obama. They kind of say all the right things and tell you they got progressive ideas and all this kind of stuff. But when it comes down to their political career, they get right in line with Dem leadership and Dem establishment. AOC knew she was lying when she was on that stage. And I sat here and I told everybody about that. And all the Kamala stands like, oh, you're just an AOC hater. Oh my God, just give her a chance. Kamala. This is what I mean when I say it's a cult. But I think a good amount of them knew that she was lying as well. AOC went right on to the majority report not too long ago, actually. Did they ask her about this working tirelessly for a ceasefire? No, of course not. They want access. And I'm greatly concerned about the future of independent media. It's become very clear to me that a number of people in independent media are more concerned about access than telling the truth. That more and more of them are trying so hard to be just like corporate media. And in doing so, that does include access to certain people. But if people aren't willing to come onto your show because you criticize the way they legislate or any political moves, then they just don't come on the show. And so many people sat up here and defended what she was saying here, knowing it was a lie. And behind the scenes, knowing it was a lie. And they sat right there, and I saw these people say right there to their audience that this was true. And behind the scenes saying something else. Because they have audience capture. Sometimes you guys agree with me, sometimes you don't. Great. I love that. Because I don't want you to agree with every damn thing I say. That shit would freak me out. Sat right up there and lied.
It was just a complete lie that Kamala Harris is doing anything to push a ceasefire.
Miss AOC, who not too long ago called it a genocide, right? She called it a genocide.
Yeah.
But still supported Joe Biden and said he was the best
She
candidate
said
out there.
Joe Biden is enabling a genocide before posing for a cute photo with him in their Ray-Ban aviator glasses. You know, like a complete fool with other members of the squad going out on a limb to say, you know, we ride or die for Joe Biden. Someone said, oh, you can't call it the Democratic Party genocide. Yes, I can, because the Democratic Party is in the White House And the Democratic president is the one person who could stop this genocide right now with one phone call to the Pentagon and say, stop the round-the-clock airlift of baby buster bombs. But it's important. Let's take her word for that, because people keep telling us, oh, Kamala Harris, she's just the vice president. She can't do anything. Well, this tells us she's directly involved here. And what AOC is doing here, it's so disgusting, because she was marketed originally as she's going to bring the ruckus and she's going to hold the feet to the fire. And what she is just an abject sheepdog for the Democratic war machine. Just like the young, hip, person of color, diversity flavoring on the brutal face of genocide.
This is what people, Ali here and Rania, they really brought this home, because the thing is this: that woman walked right up on that stage knowing damn well that they were not working tirelessly on a ceasefire. And she sold that lie very well, even convinced many people. And that's why I say she reminds me too much of Barack Obama. Barack Obama was a great speaker. He had a way of moving the crowd, and he was able to convince a lot of people, including me. And then Barack Obama won, and we saw how he really was. But what you see right now with AOC, again, this is not new. It wouldn't be new if she were to win, because she's showing you ahead of time. With Obama, it was a little bit different. With her, she's already showing you. She's showing you in ways like this, right? Thank you, Todd, for this. The Black Agenda Report. AOC votes to back Israel's lobby bogus anti-Semitism definition. I called this out when it happened. She walks that fine line to where I'm going to walk this line so I can still be cool with Dem leadership, but also still try to have some progressive street cred. And the reality is you can't do both. My grandma used to say you can't serve two masters. You really can't. You can't do both. One of them is going to have to give. And I think I know which one is going to be the give. Because AOC running as a president is going to have to lean in more to the establishment side of the Democratic Party. Let me break it down for you for a second, okay? The gentleman that won the committee seat that she was running for or whatever, remember how they all got together and colluded and said, no, don't let her get that position? Nancy Pelosi did that to her behind her back after AOC has been kissing her ass for all these years. She actually had the right idea in the beginning when she was protesting outside Nancy Pelosi's office, but decided, let me go ahead and fit in with the team because I've already been spoken to. And they made it very clear, you are not going to change anything here. You are not going to rock any boats or you're out. Now that gentleman is resigning. All of these people lied. Kamala, AOC, Biden, and I told you they were lying to you. But people wanted to believe. I know what that's like. I had hope when Obama ran too. I had hope when Bernie ran in 2016. I had hope when Bernie ran in 2020. But even these people with the progressive agendas, they still caved to Dem leadership when it's time to hold the fucking line. They don't hold the line. They're not giving you anything different. They're not starting anything new. And here is Bernie Sanders confirming that himself. Because this ties the whole discussion together, folks.
Let's talk about what you have called your oligarchy tour. You and Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez have been crisscrossing the country, warning of an emerging oligarchy. Senator, you told the New York Times, I'm going to read this quote, one of the aspects of this tour is to try to rally people to get engaged in the political process and run as independents outside of the Democratic Party. As someone who twice ran in the Democratic presidential primary, are you trying to strengthen the Democratic Party? Or, Senator, are you trying to start a third party?
Now, we're not trying to start a third party. What we're trying to do is strengthen American democracy.
They are trying to keep the left and the progressive people inside the Democratic Party. He calls it strengthening democracy, but he answered it for you folks. For the people who were still wondering, oh, maybe they're going to start something. There is no starting nothing new. The goal with fight against the oligarchy is to apparently make you still support the same said party that is a part of the oligarchy. I don't know what to tell everybody. I don't know how more clear it can be. So if AOC were to run in 2028, she's got a challenge, the same challenge that Bernie runs. He may be mentoring her for that, for her to run on like a populist like work platform, etc. You guys know how this goes, or progressive platform. But when the DNC doesn't give her the nomination, because it's really up to the DNC, they are a corporation. When they don't give her the nomination, Bernie Sanders and AOC are going to tell you to support the Democrat nominee who does take corporate money. So you can't, there is no fighting against the oligarchy inside the oligarchy. Let me say it again. There's none of that. None of that. This is not a mob movie where you infiltrate the mob. And I'm telling you this to connect it to the information that was just confirmed by Drop Site News, because, ladies and gentlemen, they're all in on it. Bernie and AOC, they knew they weren't working tirelessly for a ceasefire, but they sold it to you anyway. What does that tell you about them? It's a game. It's a game. And apparently AOC and Bernie, they learned how to play that game. AOC learned how to walk that tightrope a little bit where she can still have some of the progressive cred, but also still respect the leadership of the Democratic Party and the rules that are in place. You see, they say that Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman went a little bit too far, so they got them out of there. They did the same thing to Dennis Kucinich years ago. They did so by redrawing his district. The DNC is a corporation. And that's what's happening here. The party itself is not going to move in the direction of an AOC or a Bernie Sanders. You may want it to, but they've stated it very publicly. The donors won't let it happen. Now, if the Democratic Party didn't have corporate money, I say, hell yeah, go for it. Fight from within the party. But they controlled. So that's not changing. But they knew all along. They knew. Biden knew. Kamala Harris knew. And, of course, AOC knew. They all knew, ladies and gentlemen. And they literally sat here and they played the American people. Now, if you're new, I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. I supported Bernie in 2016, in 2020, and then I woke the fuck up. No, I'm not donating my money to these people. I wouldn't advise you to donate your money to them either. Donate your money to mutual aid. Donate your money to organizing. Donate your money to that kind of stuff. This is a scam. Everybody can't see the scam right now. I don't know what to tell you. These people sat there and lied to your fucking face, and people lost their lives. While they knew Kamala Harris and Joe Biden were just sitting there while more people were being killed. This is the same woman who sat there and said Jill Stein is predatory. No, boo. I think what's predatory is trying to convince people that you are anything other and you are different from the party that you're a part of when you've been bending the knee for years. For the people who criticize you guys, who voted third party, those of you who voted for Jill, Cornell, Claudia, etc., for the people who criticize you for voting third party, you did the right fucking thing. Jill Stein and Cornel West and Claudia de la Cruz, they didn't waver on how they felt about war, Gaza, Israel. They didn't waver. AOC wavered. Kamala wavered. Biden wavered. Bernie's still out here now, won't call it a genocide. Don't let these people shame you, especially the punks online. I don't even know if half these people real any damn way. You did the right thing. And if you are wondering if you did the right thing, now with this confirmation from Drop Site, now it is confirmed that you did the right thing. They were never pushing for a ceasefire. These people are liars. These people are frauds. And these people serve the establishment, work for the establishment, and they are never going to fight for working class people as long as they are sold out to the same oligarchy that they pretend to fight against. Let's go to some of the comments, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you, Roger. Sab, holding off on having babies begin with us, Gen X, seeing we gave birth to Z. 90s except for 9700 or 2000 was a recession. We ain't having no money for no kids. Thank you, Pine. Sabby, I hope you have a good vacation. Thank you for all you do. Thank you. Graham, they did lose on purpose. That was the script. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Graham gets it. Graham gets it. Rich goes, don't blame me. I voted for Jill Stein. Thank you, Jay. Wait, Sabby, you mean the Dems were lying? If only I had a string of pearls to clutch. By the way, have a good vacation. Thank you. Thank you, Courtney. Sabby, nothing says I told y'all so like dropping the beat for yourself. Hit it one time, Sabs. Can we drop the beat before I go on vacation? We're going to drop the beat. I'll drop it in just a second. Thank you, Blueser. Excellent journalism, Sabby. Have a nice vacation. And thank you, guys. Guys, I am heading out. I will be, it's going to be weird. I'm going to miss you guys, but I'll be back live again next Tuesday. In the meantime, you will see interviews that I recorded with Brian Berlatek. And first time he'll be on the show. Larry Johnson, also first time he'll be on the show. Larry Wilkerson came back. You'll see those interviews as well as news videos as well. So those will be all lined up for you, fam. I have been a busybody and it is time for Sabby to have a little bit of vacay. I'm going to go spend time with the Rents. Got to hang out with the Rents. You guys know how it is. It's pretty cool. We're all going to meet up in DC. So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that. We can drop the beat for that. Hey! Dance with me. Dance with me. Someone told me one time, they said I could be my own hype person. You know how people have like a hype man or something? I could be that person, but oh yeah, the parents. Sorry, Thunder. I should have made that clear. Yeah, I call my parents the Rents. Gonna go hang out with the Rents. But yeah, thank you so much. I just want to make sure I got everybody. Holy smokes. Thank you so much, Blueser, for the super chat. Super sticker. Holy crap. Thank you. Thank you so much. Rockfin. I think I have a Rockfin. I want to just highlight. Yeah. Dance with me. Dance with me. All right. Thank you, Stephanie. Hi, Sabby. The mutual aid workshop on Saturday was excellent and super informative. I look forward to getting the recording of it to show my friends who want to join me in creating a local mutual aid group. Oh, shoot. You just reminded me. I have to send the recording. Thank you for reminding me, Stephanie. I forgot. I was supposed to send that, I think yesterday. So I will take care of that and get that to the peeps. That's it for me, guys. I hope you guys have a great week, a great weekend. Again, there are going to be those protests tomorrow for Burkina Faso. You can Google those to look up that information. And then I will send the recording to those of you who attended. I have your email address, so I can do that and all that kind of stuff. So, yeah. That's it for me, folks. Oh, wait, I got to answer this. Sabby, I have a longtime Democratic friend who are leaning towards Buttigieg. What do you think about him as far as Israel Gaza goes? He's in that same camp. He's pro-Israel. Has been. When Buttigieg ran in 2020, he was not popular among Black people. That's for sure. He's going to struggle again with Black community. That's going to be a big one. And no, Pete, you can't just be like, I adopted a Black kid. So see how, no. And he did, but I no, that don't work with us. I adopted a Black kid. It was like who's the guy? Bill de Blasio. During the 2020 Democrat primary, he was on the stage and he goes, I have a Black son. And I was like, okay. Like what? Like what do you want us to do about that, Bill? No, that's not going to work. That's ultimately what it comes down to. It comes down to the Black vote. So, okie dokie. That is it for me, guys. Have a great week. You will be missed. When I get back, we'll do call in when I get back, but I do have to get things ready for the trip. So, have a good night. And keep up the fight.